Gotta go live twice. Sometimes you gotta say, hey,
I'm gonna
interview you.
Yep, I knew they were gonna do that.
Gently. Yes, there's way more features like donations and tons of fun stuff you can do. Just trust me, bro, it's a better option.
Got it. All
We're
right.
done.
I believe we
Got it,
are
coach.
on. Hey guys, will you let us know if everyone's hearing us okay and everything? Let us know in the commenties, please. Comments, comments, comedy, comments.
I see the comments coming from.
And are we on TV?
Yeah,
All right.
What?
Can you see us?
on television.
We're on TV?
All right.
Holy schmokies.
And I'm gonna make sure that the stream is waking.
Double check. Make sure the stream is
Yep.
woke.
Woke.
Whoa.
woken.
I hate that
You're
term so much.
progressive.
Yep.
It bothers me.
What?
All right, cool. It's working. Sweet.
Delete.
Alrighty, so
be woke,
what I
yo.
should do real quick, everyone bear with us just a minute. I'm going to go ahead and let everyone know that we are live across the social platforms.
Do it up with all your social medias.
Alright, so... join-
Damn, look, I'm making a tripod thing.
Yeah, you're making a video.
What?
Crazy.
Whoa, it's super high. No, it's not. We're in Washington, it's legal.
Okay, and
Turn
post the link.
Oh, Terminator song.
Terminator 2.
I'm not gonna see my pants.
Pajama pants. They're horror pants, so they got Pennywise. on
Yeah.
it.
Alright, and... got that there.
There
Just
we
two more
go.
posts and we're good to go, guys. We'll get this party started.
Well, you're the voice of an angel, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to do another karaoke special. We
miss
did
those, man.
two of those. They were both super fun.
I
and
love
both
karaoke.
got copywritten to shit, but that's all right.
Yeah.
Well, Chris
We're
was
gonna
out
do
of town
karaoke
today,
on the
so I
next,
was like singing the
Ghouls
songs
Night
and
Out.
practicing.
Oh, really?
Shotsky.
Yep. You know
Nice.
what I'm gonna sing? Some Misfits Ghouls Night Out.
It's not a fucking job. Why?
Go, go, ghouls now.
Why are they trying to make this a
Go, go,
job? I'm not
ghouls
trying to post it as a
now.
job, Facebook.
Cecil, bro, my bro. Well, who's in your chat? Are you live? Can they see us?
Yes, they can.
We just woke up. Oh my god.
I can see.
What are you gonna change between
I
now and
can
when we were gonna go
see.
live?
Whoa.
Hmm?
Well, okay.
You know what, Cecil?
All right, film's
I just
confiscated.
woke up. I woke up just for you.
Jeez,
I
huh?
set an alarm.
I
I don't
appreciate
get up
it.
for another few hours.
Thanks,
Very
Will.
much. All right, so
Way to subscribe.
Oh, thanks, Willard Styles. I love the name Willard. I love the movie Willard.
Which version?
so let's say hello to James Monk's
we're
Trailers,
talking
Teddy
about
Holiday.
I mean, I do enjoy the version with why am I tired?
Crispin Glover.
Crispin Glover.
Yeah.
But in a kind of like a silly way, the original one though is pure gold. Pure gold.
McFly.
All right.
Ben.
So guys, we're gonna
And
go
he
ahead and start.
covered Ben.
We're gonna go ahead and start. So,
Can we see Ben karaoke night? Let's have a karaoke night. Let's do karaoke right now.
guys,
You know
did
everything
are
about
you
it.
sure we just caught you after waking up and not coming out of the bar?
I could still be drunk.
Yeah, she got really drunk last night.
Okay, I think I see what's going on then. Okay, so
Are we moving? Are we
bear with me
moving?
while we
Are
get
we
this
live?
started. Okay, so.
Guys,
Guys, I'm going to say hello to the people in the comments, which is James Mock's Trailers, Teddy Holiday, Javier Lerma, Mark Pearson, Tanisha Fuller, and let's see, Eric Griffin just showed up, Brandon Dvorak, and Willard Stiles. So hello to one and all. Hello to anyone that is coming after that.
Very kind words. Thanks, y'all.
And are we frozen? Oh, no, I just paused it.
Yeah,
Okay,
like
cool.
a movie.
We're good. Yeah, no,
Let it go.
that would not be a good place to be, that frozen
Yeah,
movie. So, everyone, welcome to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
I mean, fuego here.
And we are joined today by two people that we like very much, that have been bringing the horror tube community together. They're going on their second year. Well, obviously
No, it's the
earlier
third
than
year, right?
that, but for two specific events. I'm referring to, but even outside of that, they are very entertaining and fun horror tubers to watch in their own right. Today we are joined by Gory B Movie and Danny Nightmare from the Horror Addicts channel.
Badass. Welcome, guys.
How you guys doing today?
Great. I'm kind of sleepy.
A little tired, but guys, we are going to basically dive into your sort of horror history. and sort of find out about how the channel started and evolved and how we get to where you are now. Does that sound okay to you
For an
guys?
interrogation.
Yeah, exactly. So my first question to you guys is, what was each of your first exposure to horror that you can remember? Very
we can
first.
remember.
Yeah.
You heard the man.
Well, I had the movie channels as a kid that basically all I had was like HBO, Showtime, Cinemax, that type of stuff. Those were like the only channels I had as a kid. And Friday night, well, let's see, Friday the 13th, Part 5, and Nightmare on Elm Street 2. I just remember those visuals as a kid, just being on, watching them. Freddy on the bus, the Jason, even though it's a dream sequence, killing Corey Feldman as a kid. Yeah, those are my two oldest memories, really, of horror. So
Nice.
I was like 3 years old.
Both
It
cathartic
was
and
a
legit.
winter's
Oh, yeah.
day.
The winter's day.
You boy, what day is it?
First day, so.
Today is Sunday.
My parents are big horror fans, always have been, and my parents believed that when I was a baby, she's a baby, she ain't paying attention, we can watch whatever we want. Yeah, that did not work out in their favor. They took me to American Wolf in London when I was like 3 months old. Apparently, I slept through the whole thing. But I do remember watching like snippets of horror movies, my parents reading a lot of Stephen King and stuff, and
Yes.
so early on, I started asking, like, I remember I read Carrie before, like, I started school. I don't know if I understood it, but yeah, it's because my mom would tell me this stuff. Like, we'd be at the doctor's office and she'd read me parts of Carrie or parts of whatever she was reading, and I would be really curious about it. I'm like, oh, just give me the book, you know? So, yeah, my parents were just huge horror fans, and it got me really interested in it, and I was really scared of a lot of movies when I was a kid, but I was really fascinated by the story, so I was constantly just asking them. So, like, oh, she can move stuff with her mind? That's cool. What else? So,
Nice. Very good place to
yeah.
start.
And
Yeah.
the ones I really loved when I was little, my mom showed us a lot of older movies, like Night of the Living Dead and The Bad Seed, and so, those ones I really, really love. And, oh, Incredible Shrinking Man. God, we used to watch that nonstop when I was a kid. And then it kind of evolved into scarier and scarier stuff. And then we got to the ones my parents said were too scary. And we watched them.
Probably
Also,
a pretty good
that's
segue, yeah.
and that's actually a perfect segue in the fact that, so when did you start seeking out horror yourself as opposed to having it like sprinkled down onto you from, you know, friends or family members or whatever, and like what were you drawn to, I guess, is a good way to inquire.
Jason and Freddy, like I said, are my two kind of just first memories from being like 3, 4 years old. Later on, I kind of remember watching House 2 in its entirety, and that's kind of a horror, but it was a little more of a comedy, so I guess as a little
Hotter.
kid, I wasn't like completely hiding behind a pillow or looking through the sheets as I watched it. I actually did that. But mom and pop stores, my mom let me rent anything, and I always was obsessed with Freddy and Jason, so I wanted to find the other Freddy and Jason movies. I saw that there was like a whole collection. At least at that point, there was up till 5 or 2 of them, but so I just sought them out. I loved old mom and pop VHS stores. I remember that they had a Frankenhooker, and if you press the button, it'd be like
Hand and
money
lauder,
game.
bro. Yeah.
Any
So
money?
yeah, I just went out and fought them as much as I could. Up All Nights, watching Up All Night marathons, Monster Vision, all kinds of stuff. I just was obsessed with horror. The characters were always super fascinating to me. So.
And
When
dude, I know
also
you have
lived on
a
drive-in.
full
Yeah,
full
no,
moon
I
I lived
affinity,
on a
obviously,
drive-in,
right?
So out my window, I could watch Sleepwalkers and stuff. Like just out my window, I just turn on my radio and watch whatever I wanted, pretty much. My dad was the manager at the theater, and he told me I couldn't see Freddy's Dead, but one of the girls that worked there was also one of my babysitters, and she's like, "Yeah, go ahead."
Yeah, they lived in an apartment above, like, the concession bar. Like, he
Yeah.
literally lived at a drive-in.
Yeah.
Damn.
Nice.
It was like an
Badass.
apartment intended for the manager, and that was his dad's.
And horror was just my favorite genre, so there we go. Just got obsessed with movies.
So that's how it grew. Awesome.
Yeah, and Gory, you said your horror love sort of evolved. So how did it evolve for you?
Well, my parents had a massive video collection for starters, so I had a lot to choose from. My parents, though, they have a lot of the Stephen King. They got some of the classy shit, like Evil Dead and Dawn of the Dead. But my parents were never big slasher fans, and that's a big part of the 80s and 90s where I was growing up. So as soon as we got old enough, we lived really close to a Blockbuster Video.
Nice.
My brothers and I would go down there, and we would just be like, that video case looks cool, you know, and you're like, oh, what's this, Monkey Shines? That's a cool case. So we just kind of find stuff that looked cool, and we'd rent it. And a lot of it I owe to USA Up All Night, Monster Vision, TNT marathons.
Nice.
Because I would watch that until it was over, and then I'd watch like Nick at Night. But a lot of that, you know, Joe Bob Briggs and, you know, Gilbert Gottfried and USA Up All Night would introduce me to tons of stuff, and we would love those Friday the 13th marathons. They would do on TNT all the time. So that's how I got really into like slashers, and I just kept finding the more horror I sought out, either in books or movies, like there wasn't really anything I didn't like. I was just like, it's just give me more.
I would record VHSs of those marathons and other horror movies that I could find online or on cable, because you didn't have online back then. You had to wait for something to come out and check the TV guide for movies and see which horror movies. Even my grandma would do that for me. She's like,
I would do
did you see Attack of the Killer Shrews is playing tomorrow night? I'm like, sweet.
Yeah, I would go through. We had a catalog, and I would like circle the ones I wanted to watch. I'd be like, well, I'll pencil that in because I have no social life. Saturday at 8 o'clock, I'll be there.
I mean, honestly, that was one of the unsung beauties and amazements of TV Guide, was for horror lovers. Was being able to crack that thing open, go to Friday and Saturday night, and be like, "Ooh, what's the one they're playing this weekend?"
Yeah,
like,
what is the late?
Just get all hyped for it. Yeah, no, that's awesome.
That was my weekend.
I was a kid. I was watching TGI Fridays as well. I'd see Urkel and stuff, but then after that,
Step by step.
okay, now the good stuff's coming on.
Absolutely, yeah.
You watch your Nick. You go over and watch the good movies. It ends. You go back to Nick at Night.
Yeah,
that's the weekend, man. Whoa.
Yeah,
good stuff.
Yeah, Monster Vision was super formative for me though. Like I had the horror that I'd already found from friends and stuff like that, but I don't think I would have found Phantasm if not for like Joe Bob doing Phantasm 2 on there and me discovering some more obscure shit through him.
Yeah, that's why I discovered a lot of movies.
I've still never
and
seen.
3000 would do lots of old school ones where I'd be like, "This is actually kind of entertaining."
Yeah, and the boob count and the body count and all that stuff. It's so
and we, you know, that's you can see that kind of that we were inspired by that in our show because we do a lot of times we do the good, the bad, and the gory. And in the gory, we talk about any nudity that's in the movie. We give you a death count, so it's all inspired by Joe Bob Briggs, who's like, you know, a big hero to us.
Any movie where I can pretty much give you a clear death count, I will in any review.
You'd love to give him that boob count.
Oh yeah.
Well, he counts by boob. I count him by rack.
So really? By per boob?
Well, I mean, Total Recall, you got 3 boobs.
There's 7 boobs. There's
count them by the boob.
Fair enough. Okay, so next, I thought I was going to move this to later, but I think I'll go ahead and just move into it. So let's go through your guys' thoughts on each of the horror subgenres before we segue into your channel, okay? So we started with slashers. Obviously, go ahead and give your quick thoughts on the slasher subgenre. Obviously, a favorite.
Oh yeah, I love slashers, especially when they got a good character, a good slasher themselves. Jason's one you can actually kind of relate and feel sorry for, so you kind of have the sympathy for him, even though he's still evil as shit. Freddy, even though he's technically kind of like a child murderer, almost rapist, depending on which version. He was still charming enough to woo the audience.
It's the Roger Rabbit rule. Yeah. He's funny, therefore I still like him, even though he's a horrible person.
He tricked us all into liking him.
Fucking A, what the fuck?
And it gets to the point
Same thing with Chucky. It's like, oh, you murder a lot of people, but you're funny. Let's have a beer.
Yeah. I always kind of felt bad that, like, Chucky never got to get the kid's body.
I know.
Like, I was always waiting for that to come down where he finally got Andy or somebody like Andy, and then he was a little evil kid, like, just for the most of that movie. I never got that. I was a little sad.
Sad. But now that you just mentioned that right after Freddy Krueger, now I'm wondering, was there like a subtle, like, pedophile subtext there that I didn't pick up on until just this moment?
It's all voodoo.
Yeah.
Imbala.
Well, I mean,
now the power I beg of you.
Now Chucky's in the body of a hot girl, so you know.
Yeah. No, dude.
There you go.
He's in a lot of bodies. He got a lot of little Chuckies running around.
True.
And now they're making one that's not even him, but it is him.
We'll see what happens. Corey, your thoughts on the slashers? I mean, you like them too, obviously.
I love slashers. Slashers are a lot of fun. I mean, you enjoy things for different reasons. I get a little frustrated, especially, when I talk to like fellow horror fans and like, oh, all horror is mindless. All horror has, it's all the same, and that's so completely untrue. Yeah. There's different horror for different things. Slashers are a good beer and pizza type genre generally. Mm-hmm. They're usually just fun to pop on and watch with other people, but there are some deeper ones, but there's something in horror for everybody, and slashers just tend to be really good, just fun movies. Mm-hmm. I tend to enjoy a slasher that's really fun. I think slasher comedies tend to work best for me.
They do good. They do good. So then I think horror comedy is its own sort of subgenre too. But let's, I think as long as they're done well, I think we'd all agree. So let's be a little bit more focused in. So what about torture porn? What do you guys think about torture porn?
Yes.
Define torture porn.
Your Hostels, your Saws, the stuff that really people go to see the gore more than anything else. Terrifier could be considered that as well.
Well, like for slashers, sometimes it started off really good and unique, but the sequels, you just want to see how that slasher is going to kill his people, and you just want to root the slasher on it. You don't even care about the kids anymore. Mm-hmm. I think that's how Saw and pretty much kind of became as well. The first Saw was actually very amazing, well done, and then the sequels were just rushed out to make all that cash grab. It's just, I want to see how they're going to get killed. How are they going to get caught in what trap? How is this person going to get torn apart? And not as good. I mean, some of them are all right. It just depends on how much time they put into them. I think I don't mind the torture porn, like if it's in a movie that's good. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't need to see it just for the torture porn. That's kind of boring for me. But I don't know.
Fair. No, that's a fair answer. Yeah. Okay.
It doesn't bother me. It's like
I would actually argue that the same thing happened with the Final Destination franchise after a while, where the characters became less and less likable. It was all about how elaborate and crazy ass the set piece was.
And so, like, they'll put you on pins and needles because you'll, like, usually think, oh, well, that's going to fall on him, but then, something explodes from behind or something, they do that to try and trick you. And it's a gimmick, and gimmicks will put some butts in the seats, usually for a quick, dollar, but I don't like that just for that.
Can you say butts on TV?
Yeah, I think you can say butt on TV. We're not on TBS.
well, so then what's another subgenre you guys dig then?
Well, wait, Gory. Let's get Gory's thoughts.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Well, one of the things I really like about torture porn, I mean, I think about torture porn is a term that's thrown around usually to insult movies, but I mean, movies that are heavy on gore. In the 80s, the gore was kind of like a magic trick. Like, you'd watch it. There was no CGI, so you're like, how the fuck did they do that? Like, even movies like Prowler, which I think Prowler's kind of boring. It's got some cool kills in it, so you'd watch it for that, like, magic of it. And modern day, I think the only time you really get that is in a lot of these really gory movies, because a lot of times they really try to do the practical effects. Like in Terrifier, you're like, geez, they did this with practical. How did they do that? And I think that's probably my favorite aspect of those kind of movies. Though, as far as a lot of those movies go, I love Saw. I think Saw is a great, timeless movie. I'm not so big on the sequels, but I think Saw is. I watched that movie and I was like, I could not talk for an hour. Just like, that movie knocked me back. It was so cool. I love Hostel. I love Hostel 2. I love any movie with a penectomy.
Oh, boy.
I was going to say, a lot of people prefer the second Hostel, right?
I love them both. Yeah. But I love a lot of those really gory movies because I like to, especially when they're using practical effects, it's like, how did they do that? I think that part of it's really fascinating, really fun.
And even Lols, he hasn't seen some of these movies, but he's seen how we do it too, just for our little skits of how to make a movie, how to make gore, how to make people look like their arms are getting cut off and stuff. And he watches a lot of the behind the scenes on the DVDs with us, even more than he watches actually the movies themselves. And he's very interested in that. And that's, I think, is really a fun aspect. And the big torturous movies do have a lot of that cool stuff in it, just ripping people apart.
I think people get disappointed when they're looking for the wrong things from the wrong movies. You don't watch, for instance, a torture porn movie, a slasher movie, or, like a shark movie, and then walk away and saying, well, the story wasn't that good. It's like, what the fuck did you expect from Shark Movie 4?
What did you show up for?
One good shark story, and it's been told.
Exactly. And there are horror movies that are more multi-layered and are deeper. And yeah, if you didn't think that Hereditary had depth or layers to it, then you have every right to be disappointed. But when it comes to like a gore movie, I think you're there for the effects and the spectacle of it, and I enjoy that just as much as any other horror movie.
Yeah. Good answer.
Speaking
Yeah.
of Jaws, real quick, Bruce the shark was not the villain; it was the mayor of Amityville.
Absolutely. He's the
Yeah,
one that
and
kept
the
putting
water-
lives in danger.
Oh, yeah, he
Speaking
didn't
of
care.
that, another random segue. I know it's like Amity Island, but who doesn't want to see an Amityville Horror meets Jaws crossover?
That would be so awesome.
Yeah,
Ghost
that'd be great.
shark.
Terrorized. The dad's about to kill him. They get on a boat to escape, but then shark
And
attack.
then the Amityville house is a boat launch. What?
I know exactly. They get in their boat to go away from the dad that's trying to kill him, but then the shark's trying to kill him, and they don't know where to go.
Oh,
So,
that'd be great.
That could be on par
it
with
could
Freddy
work.
versus
It could work.
Jason type shizzle, I'm telling you.
So let's talk about how about paranormal?
Go ahead. You like paranormal?
What?
This is like your favorite
What are you talking about?
paranormal activity.
Paranormal movies. No, like ghost
I will
movies.
say, when it comes to scaring me, it tends to be paranormal movies. And paranormal movies fucking get me. Especially Paranormal Activity. I had an apartment that was exactly, like, not exactly, but the view from the bedroom was the same as the one from Paranormal Activity. And my stairs had rubber on top of them. It was like campus housing. And so they were loud. And so that stomping up the stairs, oh, dude, that got me. That movie, paranormal, like ghost stuff movies. Also, The Ring scared the shit out of me. If I'm gonna get scared by a movie, 9 out of 10 times, it's a paranormal movie. I do think, like with any subgenre, I mean, it's really frustrating when people are just like, well, this movie sucked, therefore the whole subgenre sucks. There's always good and bad in every subgenre, but. Yeah, paranormal movies I find really scary most of the time.
Yeah, when we first started dating, she had those stairs, and if she wanted me to go to the kitchen to grab her something from the bedroom, but then on the way back, I'd just do really slow, loud stomp. And stop it!
There's literally good and bad paranormal movies within the same series. Like you,
Oh, yeah.
you get,
Paranormal Activity is a perfect example.
uh-huh.
I didn't
Well,
even like the first one.
I didn't really like the first one that much, but then I saw the second one, and I felt it added to it really well. I'm like, okay, I like it, and I started even liking the first one a little more because they could watch them back to back, and it kind of made a lot more sense. But then they started making weird ones that just didn't make any answers. It just made way more questions, and
Well,
not what I wanted to ask.
I mean,
Ghost
Insidious
Dimension
1 and
stuff.
2, and then Insidious 4, obviously, like a bad example. There's the
I guess I
Conjuring
should
movies are
clarify
great
that
and Bad
one.
the Nun.
The popular, and I get so much shit for this, but the popular I'm not a big James Wan fan.
Oh,
I didn't. I love Saw, but I don't. I couldn't get into the Insidious movies. I've never really finished Insidious 2. I fall asleep every time, and I've tried like 5 times.
How about Dead Silence?
I love Dead Silence. Okay, that one's good. I don't like the Conjuring movies. I think they're a little preachy,
what?
Like-
Wow.
I like Conjuring 2. I'm not too
little
big on the
Bible
first one,
thumpy.
Yeah, I'm not a big Conjuring fan.
Wow,
In
okay.
fact, the one out of those ones, the only one I kind of liked was The Nun, but only because it made me laugh a lot.
But I mean, for fans of those, I will say they are well made. I like, I can see why people like them. They are not for me. And you know what, guys? We don't have to like the same movies.
Yeah.
It's totally cool. Like, people apologize to me a lot because they dislike or like a movie I didn't in the review. And I'm like, that's completely fine. You are a horror fan. You're already one of the coolest people I know.
I would say movies like that, and Crimson Peak and stuff, I say they're very glossy, they're very well made in a sense, they're very name brand, they got a lot of money and budget put into them, but I don't know.
There are good and bad things about every subgenre. In paranormal, like I said, with the torture porn ones, you tend to get the best effects. So maybe the story's weak, but you're like, dude, how the fuck do they do that? And then with paranormal movies, that's where you tend to get the worst effects. It tends to be CGI. It tends to be cheap. A lot of new filmmakers will make a paranormal movie because they think they can do it on the cheap.
Lots of jump scares.
Lots of jump scares. So when they're bad, they're shit. But when they're good, they're really good.
Yeah, and the
I
same
think The Ring
thing.
is one of the scariest movies of all time.
Well, it's like, I saw Winchester, and I put it off for a long time because I thought it was just going to be one of these type of movies that I don't really follow. But I actually enjoyed the story and the characters, but the jump scares were just a CGI ghost right there in his face out of nowhere, and I'm like, that didn't do anything for me. I liked the story, but I was not remotely scared throughout any of the movie. So I was like,
Yeah, someone brought up The Exorcist, and someone says that's paranormal. I'd actually put that more. I think demonic is a separate genre from paranormal.
yeah, like
myself.
Omen and stuff. Those
Yeah,
Yeah,
are-
well, I mean, like
say those
the-
are slightly different, and the old school ones like Omen and Exorcist have great effects, but they're not CGI because it's way
Possession.
back
I mean,
in the day.
And that's what I
possession
was gonna
is
say, is
a
yeah,
huge
Possession's its
subgenre
own
too.
genre
So
in
yeah,
Yeah.
itself. Yeah.
how about you, Gory? What do you think about the possession subgenre? Does that one get you at all?
Possession movies, I enjoy them. The Exorcist scared me a lot, especially when I was younger. When people say, like, one of the criticisms I get frustrated by is all horror movies are the same, which is so frustrating because there's so many different kinds of horror movies. It's like, are you watching them? But I will say the possession ones, that tends to be a trope or subgenre where I feel like there's not as much creativity. I feel like we see a lot of the same thing over and over again. And I think maybe it's just, yeah, I don't know why it is, but with a lot of other genres like slashers, they're like, oh, well, let's do one that's funny. Let's do one that's this. They're really trying every different which way to approach it. And I think I'd like to see filmmakers try some more different ways to approach paranormal. There are some out there, and I'm not saying there aren't any creative ones, but that is one where, especially with your ones from Wild Eye releasing, the cheaper ones where I'm like, and I've seen this movie 1,000 times already.
And it doesn't always just go for only possession movies, but I do hate it when it's like, this is the next exorcism.
I hate that. I hate that. I also hate it'll do for sleeping what Jaws did for the water.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah, that there's a lot of hyperbole in horror now. I'm actually planning out a...
The Jaws one's old, though. That's been around a long time.
It'll do what Leprechauns in Space did for what Jaws did for sharks.
Yeah. I want to do a whole, live stream about hyperbolic, horror stuff, because there was, I think, no less than 5 different movies last year that people were proclaiming as the scariest movie ever. I mean,
yeah, that honestly was, I like Hereditary. I think it's one of the best movies of the year. But I will say I was disappointed at the theater because all the hype was, it's one of the scariest movies of all the time. It's this generation's The Exorcist. And you can't compare a brand new movie to The Exorcist, which has decades of, being able to stand on its own. I mean, that movie's brand new. You just can't do that.
Veronica had that same sort of thing going on last year,
as a fan, you go into that and then you can't help but be a little disappointed. Because Exorcist is a movie you've loved for years, and you're like, oh, this is going to be so scary, and I wanted to be scared because I get scared by paranormal type stuff, and there's a lot of demonic and paranormal stuff in that movie. And maybe if the hype wasn't so big, I would have been more scared. I enjoyed it a lot, but I was a little disappointed because it didn't scare me.
I tried to avoid some of the stuff for it, but I did hear that this is the next Exorcist. I was like, oh god. And I don't know, I like Hereditary. I thought it was pretty cool, especially the ending, but it wasn't the scariest movie of the year.
No.
It was probably the most dramatic movie of the year, but
I don't think it compares to Hereditary, and or compares to The Exorcist, and The Exorcist has stood the test of time since the 70s. Hereditary's been out for a few months. It's just such a bold claim.
Yeah.
In 20 years' time, if people are still talking about Hereditary, then maybe we can say it's as scary as The Exorcist, but we'll see.
Are you using bomb?
And that's honestly where reviewers get so ahead of themselves, and the fact that they just lay the burden of expectations so friggin' high that you're bound to be disappointed, I think, when expectations are like that.
I mean, it's just like a lot of my experiences, when you have like a friend who's a favorite movie, it's so good. Are you watching this part? Are you watching this part? Most of the time you're going to be disappointed just because when the hype is too big, or everyone says it's one of the best movies of all time, and you go to watch it, and you're just like, wow. Whereas, interestingly enough, like this year, we just had one. I just saw Leprechaun Returns, and I'm like, this is going to be shit, because Leprechaun sequels tend to be shit. I love Leprechaun. I love it in, like, a good way, but we were like, yeah, let's just watch this. We're going to half pay attention to it while we eat dinner, and it was really good. It was actually really funny, and it was because I think maybe because our expectations were so low, we were, like, really enjoying it.
Well, hang on, guys. Hang on a second. We lost you. There we go. You're back. Okay.
There we go.
Well, it can't be as bad as one, because the last one was like a weird derp version of the things from the, I don't know.
Well, and it was produced by the WWE, right?
Yeah, that was horrible. And they didn't even let the little hornswoggle guy be a leprechaun. He was like a little skinless cat or something. I don't know. But it was stupid.
All right, so that's, I think, the last subgenre we'll touch on before we move on to Fuego's next question is found footage. I know you mentioned, obviously, Paranormal Activity. That was one of them, but there's so many more that are coming out on and they're being... enhanced and I mean now technically the laptop sort of thing is a found footage thing, and then so all of that stuff, it's been evolving over the years. What are your thoughts on the found footage?
We didn't get too much this year in
Yeah, there
2018.
wasn't that many this year, which is
But
weird.
they did do the laptop thing. We had searching and
Yeah.
the dark web on.
It's kind of changing a bit. It's weird how I love noticing the trends. Like a few years ago, there was tons of home invasions and found footage, and this last year we were looking at the trends, and we're like, wow, there wasn't really a lot of found footage, which was kind of
No.
interesting.
Less zombie, way less vampire.
A lot of paranormal though. Big
There was a
there was
found
still a
footage
lot of
vampire
zombie.
movie.
But yeah.
But less.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause we're even thinking about that for our Oscars. Last year we did a best zombie award because there were so many zombies. Like, we're not even gonna bother to do that award this year because there's like one zombie.
We had to do best creature because there wasn't enough of any individual creature like vampires or werewolves or anything.
There was one found footage vampire. They live among us or whatever. It wasn't very good though. Found footage, once again, a gimmick. If can be done well, there can be movies that are great that way, but most of the time they're not. It's just a gimmick to try and put people in the seats, and I'm kind of tired of it for the most part.
And also to make stuff for like
I
hella
really like
cheap.
found footage because I feel like it's a lot of people like a good example is Toby Hooper. He was a kid from Texas and he wanted to make movies, but he didn't think he could because he lived in the wrong state and he had no money. And then he watched Night of the Living Dead and he's like, shit, I can do that. I can do that. And then he made Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And I think found footage is kind of like that for modern age. It's like anybody can do that. Now, can you do it well? That's an entirely different question. But I like that it gives a lot of new filmmakers an opportunity to kind of get their footing. And sometimes there's a lot of ones I really enjoy. I love Paranormal Activity. I love Grave Encounters.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's some really, really good ones out there when it's done well. But I do like that, especially for new filmmakers. I think it gives them a real chance to kind of show what they got. And I always like, kind of keeping an eye out for like, who's up and coming in the horror genre. But, the problem is when you have a wider playing field, because anybody can make a found footage movie, then you also have more that are not so great. And then I think that's where found footage gets its bad rap, because there are more people able to contribute to it because it's so easy to do. There are more that are not that great. But I still don't think it takes away from the ones that are really good.
Like I said, when they can be done really well.
Yeah.
Oh, Savage Rock and Roll, we love you too, buddy.
Yeah, I love Ron.
And
like Maurice the Beast just mentioned Cloverfield. Cloverfield was great.
Cloverfield was great.
Really great. So I think I'm most offended by a found footage movie when it's done by a studio and it still sucks. Like, you had money!
And a lot of indie do it because it's cheap. That's the reason why we have so many zombie movies, because there's something that you can easily do cheap. And that's...
Yeah, I mean, honestly, with the subgenres, there is no subgenre where I'm going to be like, oh, I don't like paranormal. I love all areas of horror. The only area of horror, and this comes back to why I don't like Conjuring and Insidious, the only area of horror where I'm really just like, fuck that, is the kind of big studio ones where I feel like they lack soul, they lack passion. I feel like the story came from a bunch of guys in a boardroom, like, well, what is gonna make money? And that's the kind of stuff that really I have a hard time getting into.
As for found footage, like the first two Paranormal Activities, I said, I enjoyed them. It worked with what they were doing. But then you had part 4, and the little girl's running around with her laptop so you can all see what she's doing. And it's like, that's ridiculous. Why would she run over there holding her laptop with her webcam on?
And that wasn't by, like, the first one where it's like a guy who's, like, sitting there like, wow, this would be really fun. This would be really scary. I want to do this. This is my passion. It's a bunch of dudes in a boardroom saying, how are we going to make some money? How are we going to get, like Blumhouse. A lot of the Blumhouse, there are great Blumhouse movies. But a lot of them are that cheap cash grab.
It reminded me kind of like a South Park when Randy Marsh is like, oh, I'm so startled. But they're like, put the camera down. What are you doing? He's like, well, this is what I'm doing. It's like, guinea pigs and stuff and watching people get ripped to shreds.
I want to keep seeing found footage movies because, like I said, I think it is a cool way for new filmmakers to get their footing.
I just don't like it when it's like they force it upon it where it's so unrealistic to why you're watching the footage. It's like, who edited this if sometimes the ending needs to make sense too? Like, that someone did edit it? Because sometimes it implies that no one could have.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, wait.
And I feel like when done well, found footage is very immersive. Like, it gives you that impression, like how movies in the 80s they would do that based on a true story because they were trying to immerse you in it. They were trying to make you think, oh, that could happen to me. Found footage is like that for modern age, where you feel like you're watching a movie that you might have just found, that's i.e. found footage.
Yeah.
But it feels like you're watching maybe just like
the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre in a sense. It felt like you almost were watching a real snuff film in a sense.
Yeah, basically like a snuff film or something you found on the internet, but it's fiction and it's safe.
Yeah.
But yeah, it has that immersive feel where it's almost like including you in the movie.
It's half found footage, but Cannibal Holocaust. I liked the intrigue of how they did that in the movie. I mean, it's not a perfect movie by any means, and the director was kind of a dick, but still, when I remember seeing that pretty young, going, wow, this actually does feel kind of real that they're watching somebody else's found footage.
And with found footage, it's almost like the audience is like a character, because that's how it works. Somebody is viewing this footage. So there are a lot of great things about it, and I don't think it's a subgenre to be written off.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I'm going to totally agree with the both of you in the fact that when it's actually done effectively, it legitimizes the film. It does make it feel just a little bit more real, which is cool. But as talking about approaching stuff passionately and with like a legit intent, you guys obviously bring that to your channel. It's obviously an act of just passion and dedication. Whose idea was it? Was it a mutual thing, or like who was spearheading the process initially?
Initially, me. I came up with it. Just an idea.
Sorry, I just want to tuck your hair behind your ear.
I don't know. I was just gonna get into some YouTube channels, not even horror ones technically. It was like Black Nerd. I was watching him.
Black Nerd Comedy, Andre Meadows.
Yep.
We've had him on twice.
We like that guy a lot.
Yeah, he's fun.
Yeah, he's a really cool guy, and he just has a bunch of cool nerdy stuff in the background, and he was doing some little skits at the time, like Who's Bowser's Kids and stuff. Like, he was just doing some fun stuff, and I was like, you know what? I have a bunch of cool horror stuff in my background. Like, we had an attic back in the day with these big shelves just full of horror memorabilia, some of which is still behind us, but in our different house. And, I was like, I could do something kind of like that. That'd be fun. I'd go with horror because I was looking through it, and the horror community wasn't that big about 4 years ago. Like, at least I couldn't find too much, and now we've all kind of found each other, and it's pretty awesome. But, yeah, so I was like, all right, well, I was thinking about ideas. It's like, horror would be like that. I want to do horror like that. I want to do little skits. I want to do little reviews. And I kept talking about it for a while, but I wasn't actually did it until I watched Tusk, and I was doing the special scenes, and then Kevin Smith's like, well, yeah, it was just like kind of a podcast that we're making fun of it, and like we wrote the movie right there just talking to each other, and then we're like, hell, let's do it. I'm like, you know what? So I grabbed my cousin Jess, Undead Jess, who was in a lot of our first episodes. He doesn't live with us anymore, but back then he did, and we just busted out the Tusk review. So
that's a good way to get going.
Yeah, and then Gory got on board and
yeah, he told me about it, and I'm like, that is great. You have fun with that. Because I had a blog, Books Are Delicious, and I experimented with doing a video at one point because I'd seen some other bloggers do it, and I was not into it. I didn't like how the footage turned out. I didn't like hearing my own voice. I didn't know how neither of us knew anything about video editing.
Not really, no.
And so I tried it once, and I was like, no, it's not for me. I'm just going to stick with writing. And then Danny says he's doing this. I'm like, well, that's cool. I really support you. Have fun with that. And then I'm going to do this Gone Girl one. We at least be in it. And when I do get into things, I try to kind of like research. And I got really into like looking up we used Windows Movie Maker when we started. And we got into that. And I remember how excited we were like the first time we figured out how to put a picture on screen.
It wasn't Movie Maker for that. It was I don't know. It's another one.
Or maybe it was, yeah.
It was a pain in the ass.
It took a long time.
Then you got a Premiere Pro.
Before Premiere, didn't we try the other Adobe program?
Yeah, that's the one I used to finally put pictures on the screen and stuff.
Yeah.
But it was a huge pain in the ass.
But it took a while, and then I kind of got into like the parts of it like that, like the editing parts of it. Like, well, how do we figure out how to do this? Can we do this? So... yeah, it was really fun.
So then
I think what really stuck for us was meeting other people, like, especially when we first started, like, we had maybe 30 subscribers, and Brian Barnes reached out to us on Twitter and wanted to collab, and we're like, I don't know what that is, sir, but you're cool, and we'll do it.
And you were like, Blood Bath and Beyond are having, like, this contest where,
They had their 5K contest. They used to be that small. Yep. And we won.
Yeah, we won that.
We won the Blood Bath and Beyond 5K contest.
And
nice.
Then, got talking to Screaming Soup, and then just eventually lots of people, so.
Badass.
But Yeah, so it's really cool. You like met people in the community, and just I think that's one of the most rewarding parts about it is meeting other horror fans and making friendships. And like you guys are our buds.
And
Friendship.
she started streaming with like Jacula and stuff, and eventually she was like, "Oh yeah, this would be cool if there was like a 24-hour like crawl where we did your channel for a long time, and then our channel for a long time, and maybe someone else's channel for a long time." And then YouTube was really cracking down on smaller channels, so she's like, "All right, I'm gonna stop talking about that," and she just did it, and that's why we had the creepy channel crawl, and you guys were a part of that, and we thank you so much.
Yeah, we were happy to.
Absolutely.
Yeah, a lot of our ideas come like, wouldn't it be cool if there was a horror Oscars? Well, let's do it.
Exactly.
Wouldn't it be cool if there was just a women in horror show where like just all of us few women on here get together? We have Ghouls Night Out. So like a lot of times it's just like, well,
we'll say
fuck,
that to
it would
each
be
other.
cool. Let's do it.
Yeah, like I said that with the Oscars, you said that with Ghouls Night Out. We didn't do the Oscars the first year we wanted to do it because we just weren't prepared. Then last year we finally got to actually do it, and
We kind of did on Ghouls Night Out.
yeah, well,
Gary Busey won just because you.
yeah, we did the Oscars. The first time was technically an actual episode of Ghouls Night Out. It's a live episode, but we did it the right way the next time, and that's how it is. But just wanted to call it the Oscars. Like, real monsters.
That's good. That's good. Now, so you touched on a couple of things, but
Marsha Parker is in your chat.
Yep.
Yep, she's gonna be here soon.
Yep, she's coming over soon. Now, the link to your channel is in the description box for people that want to go and subscribe. But what else can they expect on the channel? You mentioned Ghouls Night Out and the Oscars and the Creepy Crawl, but what else?
Lots of reviews. This is actually going to be the year of the puppet for my full moon reviews.
Nice.
Doing
Well,
all
explain
12...
what full moon reviews are, babe.
Well, first of all, every full moon, this is another thing that I talked about for a while before I actually did it. It's like, hey, it'd be funny if I reviewed a full moon movie on every full moon.
Yeah.
And then I think Screaming Soup was like, hey, we're going to have full moon versus Trome. I'm like, you know what? I need to really just jump on this full moon idea that I have before someone else, does that as their thing. So I was like, I started doing full moon reviews every full moon. And a lot of people are like, I can't believe that you're still doing this. Then they're like, well, never mind. Full Moon makes like 10 sequels to each one of their franchises. So it's like, yeah, it'll be a while. But now there's 12 Puppet Masters. I know the 12th one isn't technically a Full Moon movie. I mean, and Charles Band is a producer, but that's about it. And I'm still going to do it on there just because I can't do, 11 Puppet Master movies and not do the last one. So
Yeah.
it's like, it'll be an exception. And it'll be a good reason to talk about it, I guess.
Cool.
So,
Yeah, I was gonna say Full Moon was my jam in the '90s, dude. Whether it was trancers or subspecies or
I love
Puppet
the
Master.
90s ones better. Some of the new ones they have are okay, but I'm not a big fan of like Full Moon the 2000s as much. I really love the 90s. That's what I grew up on.
Full
that
Moon was,
stuff.
I think, strongest in the 90s.
And once again, it was the mom and pop VHS stores. Like I would
time.
go there and I'd find all these cool ones. I remember just like it kind of blew my mind when I realized that Dollman and Demonic Toys were in the same universe. I'm like, holy shit!
I think
Tim
that's one of the fun
Thomerson.
parts of being a horror fan is because for me, horror is the one genre that always actually manages to surprise me. Because I mean, I do like other genres, but like romantic comedies, if any genre is the same every fucking time, it's a romantic comedy.
Yeah,
And action movies, they tend to be the same every time. But that could just be because I'm not an action movie fan and I'm reducing it, but whatever. But with horror, yeah, maybe a lot of them are. But horror, every year I manage to see something where I'm like, I have never seen that before. Always manages to surprise me, and I think it has the most room for creativity.
And you can add horror with any other genre. In your horror movie,
Yeah.
you can have a love story in a horror movie. You can have a bromance in a horror movie. You can have a buddy cop horror movie. And there's like all kinds of
That's
that.
kind of like why I don't watch like romantic comedies or action movies anymore, because like why when I can watch like Shaun of the Dead where it's a romantic comedy
Mm-hmm.
and it's a horror movie, or
Yeah.
if I want to watch an action movie I can watch like something like Overlord or something. You can find every other genre in horror. You
Yeah.
can get everything. You can get action, you can get horror, you can get comedy, you can get kids movies, you can get animation. I mean, everything.
Yeah,
Sorry, we're ranting now.
everything
No.
Side horror.
Spot on.
But other stuff that's coming up in Horror Addicts. You mentioned the Creepy Channel Call, more Ghouls Night Out, more book reviews. I'm bringing book reviews back. What else?
What are you gonna review?
Coming up, I've got The Hunger, probably The Good Demon. I also kind of want to, I've been doing a lot of newer ones. I kind of maybe want to dig up some older ones that people haven't read. Stuff that I grew up on, like some, a lot of people have read like Stephen King and stuff, but I also think a lot of people might like Robert McCammon or Richard Lehman. So, like people know about like Clive Barker, but some of these other like authors from the 80s, I kind of maybe want to dig up and share with people because as a movie fan, I think that's one of the most, and as a reviewer, that's one of the most rewarding aspects when you introduce something to somebody and they love it.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys probably get that, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'd be careful about Richard Lehman, at least on the Beast House books.
Richard Lehman's The Stake is pure gold.
Oh, see, I haven't read that one, but
One of the most creative vampire books ever.
the Beast House books are a little
that's the one
bestiality full for me.
In The Stake, this couple and they're like with another couple, they find a vampire in a coffin and it's got a stake in its chest, and there's a whole bunch of other stuff going on, and it builds to this climax because if they pull the stake out, the vampire is going to come to life. So
Nice.
It's really good.
Okay, that sounds good. So just a quick lightning round.
Lightning round.
This just.
But that's not just to say that's not to say I don't love Stephen King and Clive Barker too.
Fair
You
enough.
know me and my Stephen King, for God's sake.
Yeah,
It's
I love
overkill.
Stephen King.
So lightning round real quick. We're gonna ask 4 different things associated with horror. You just say your favorite and least favorite, or at least the first favorite and least favorite that come to your minds. This is meant to be a lightning round. Ready? So I'll go first, and you go next. All right?
Cool.
Horror icon.
Favorite first?
Yep.
Ash.
Yeah.
Okay. Gory favorite.
First favorite that comes to mind, Ash is great. Buffy.
Good
Or-
one. Okay. Good. Least favorite.
Lavalantula.
Nice. Okay. The Lavalantulas. Fair enough. Gory.
Icon? Least favorite icon?
Well, yeah, that's a stretch on icon.
Or, I mean, like overhyped,
Also
boring,
much.
I
even actually kind of like the first Lavalantula movie. The
It's so
second one
hard
just
because when
sucked.
I think of anything I hate, then I'm like, but they had that one sequel that I liked. I guess of icons, James Wan.
Oh,
That has
okay.
to be my
That
Michael
works.
Bay.
That counts.
That works,
That counts.
Michael Bay.
All right, so we're going to go even more broad for the second one. What is your favorite?
Hey Dan,
Right.
will you pick that up? That name we just dropped. Sorry, I'm doing that for Zach Raven.
Yeah, it's okay. It happens on our channel a lot too.
Yeah, so the next one is going to go even more broad. What is your favorite horror film?
Evil Dead 2.
Gory?
Of all time.
Yep.
That's such a hard
Dun, dun,
question.
dun.
First
Hey,
that comes to mind. First that comes
I
to
didn't
mind.
write
That's
the
why
questions.
gut plays
Okay,
gut
I'm
plays
gonna
a
tell
factor.
you, favorite horror film for me is not necessarily one I think is like the best one of all time, but the one that I love the most, the one that I watched the most.
Okay.
I'm gonna say The Craft. I love The
Wow,
Craft.
okay.
Damn.
Good. That's
Okay.
that's a good one.
Now, so how do we phrase least favorite here, though? Like maybe one that you think is the most overrated and everybody loves and you think just kind
However
of
you want to
sucks.
answer
I'm
that.
just gonna tell you hashtag horror sucks ass.
What?
Hashtag horror. Movie sucks.
Oh,
Yeah, I never watched that. We did a
I
trailer
thought you
reaction
were
to
like
it.
a younger millennial, and you're
No,
like,
the movie
I was
hashtag horror
like,
from
you hate
2016,
horror?
I think.
Well, I'm sorry, sir, but these are some divorce papers.
Slender Man
Have a nice
movies.
life.
Any Slender Man movie.
No, the movie hashtag horror. I think that was the most awful movie. Not just horror. That's the shittiest movie I've ever seen.
Wow.
That was an assault to the senses. My ears were bleeding. My eyes like seized up. Fuck that fuckity fuck movie.
I've seen
Oh
like,
shit! Can we say fuck on the TV?
Tell them
late.
how you really feel.
Too late. You'll be fined by the FCC. You'll get
Are
papers.
you guys slimed?
big fan of Evil Bong movies.
It's
either.
live.
Yeah, those are, and I can't believe there's 7 of them now. My
The
God.
Ginger Dead Man. My
Suck
God.
too.
Okay, so the next one is favorite horror weapon. Quickly.
Chainsaw.
Okay.
Frisbee saw.
Ooh.
Whoa!
Like the crow?
Phantasm.
Oh, okay.
Phantasm balls.
Yeah.
Oh, Phantasm.
You have
balls.
Remember when the
balls.
frisbee
I
had
like
little
balls.
saws on it? That was cool.
Phantasm even had a really cool boomstick as well. Like it was like
Yeah, the double like
it
shotgun.
was like
Mhm.
8-barrel shotgun or something.
Phantasm
yeah,
was so cool.
it was like quadruple crazy.
And the balls are cool, too. I love
Everything
the
in Phantasm
balls.
was cool. like
Yeah.
not
Okay,
the
so-
killing.
The movie
wise.
has balls.
Yeah, it does.
Favorite
Yeah.
Phantasm. What's the best one?
First
2.
For me, it's the first one.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's almost like the Alien versus Aliens debate with one.
Yeah,
and two
I
in the
I
love
mean, okay,
franchise.
to clarify, yes, Phantasm 1 is the best movie.
Well, it's a
like, as
horror
far
movie,
as-
and the second
if
was
I
an
was gonna
action
say
movie. I mean,
quality-wise, and if you're looking for something scary, if you're looking for a scary movie, you don't need it to make a lot of sense. Phantasm. But if you want to have fun, I think the one I come back to the most is Phantasm 2, just because for me it's really fun.
All right. Then last one for you.
okay, so the last one. What is your favorite kill in a horror movie?
Ah,
Recently,
Leprechaun.
that was so cool.
The guy gets split in half by the solar panels in Leprechaun. That was probably the most recent
That's the
one. I
best of
thought.
2018. That was
Oh,
awesome.
but I don't know. Then again, in Victor Crowley, when what's her name? Melissa Rose got her arm ripped off with her cell phone in it, and it was shoved up her vagina, and it came out her mouth.
Yeah.
Oh, remember in Feast 2, where the feastling guy, he ate the person, and then he pooped out her head? That's so cool.
All right, then I don't know. Are there any least favorites?
Like, crazy kills.
Are there any least favorite kills?
Just usually off camera.
Yeah, off camera, right?
Yeah.
That's- yeah. Okay.
Show that shit.
Fair enough.
And I just find when
Okay.
it's done for, like, intentionally, like, like your old Hitchcock movies and stuff, they would do that.
I'm gonna say
But-
that I'm not a big fan of how Dracula gets killed in the original Dracula. It's off camera and you see like a shadow, and it's, I don't know. I love that movie, but I don't like how he was killed. I
Good
feel like
call.
that's the weakest part of that whole movie.
Why don't you bitch to Todd Browning about it? Oh, wait, you can't.
Go
I
ahead.
wasn't also a big fan of when he beat the Wolfman puppet down with the cane, and it was just a little puppet. But whatever. Still love those movies.
Okay,
So
so
you're shitting on Universal, bro.
well, because they're iconic.
Dead to me.
so we are in the year of 19 to do my Stephen King thing. But what are you most looking forward to in this new year for horror?
You didn't ask us any Stephen King questions.
Well,
I quit this interview.
Pet Cemetery, probably. I think Pet Cemetery might be what I'm looking forward to.
So I already can see 2019's. I love looking at you guys are horror freaks too. So like, do you like looking at like the year and be like, what was the trend? What was the theme?
Yeah.
Already we can see that shit. I just hit my camera. Already we can see the theme for next year. There are so many fucking remakes.
No.
But here's the crazy thing.
Some sequels.
I'm kind of excited about a lot of them.
Mhm.
There's Reg remake. I can't remember who's making it, but it's a really good filmmaker. There's Rabid, which I was like, well, how can you remake Rabid? But the Soska sisters are making it.
Yeah, but
I
CM
love-
Punk's in it.
Damn, the Soska sisters.
Chick Magnet
Don't
Punk.
you love the Soska sisters more than you hate CM Punk?
Yeah. I guess.
All right, then let it go, bro. Let it go.
Let it go.
Pet Cemetery looks fucking awesome. The trailer, I think it looks really good. I'm excited for the It movie. Shit, hold on a second. I'm gonna go check something out real quick.
Well, we
All
also
right.
have the Jacob's Ladder remake. We've got the Child's
No,
Play
I didn't
remake.
know
We've
that.
got
Dude,
So there's more coming. He's coming.
When am I gonna get my Sleepwalkers 2? I don't want a remake. I want part 2.
yeah, we're part two.
He
Hold on
left
a
it
second.
wide open enough with that Mythos, man. I mean,
Yeah, look at my 2019 list.
I watched the trilogy of the Godzilla cartoons. It was not good.
Oh, that third one was. We didn't even get Godzilla outside of one shot for 45 fucking minutes in the last
Exactly. It was
episode.
so boring. I have no idea what the fuck they were even trying to do. It's like,
Oh, and
Okay,
his his fight with King Ghidorah. What? One hit?
what was that?
One hit?
And we're
That's
also
it?
having another big Stephen King year next year because we have Pet Cemetery, we have In the Tall Grass, which I think that's going to be good.
have you read
I'm
that?
looking forward to the Godzilla
Glass,
movie,
I'm looking forward to the guy who did Witch is making Nosferatu.
though. Mhm.
Godzilla, Us, Jordan Peele's Us, the trailer.
Mm.
What?
Yep.
I'm
so
honestly
cool.
personally curious what Tim Miller is going to do with the Terminator franchise, with Linda Hamilton coming back, with Arnie coming back.
Oh, I'm stoked for the Return of the Killer Tomatoes sequel that's done by the original filmmakers.
Yeah.
That Killer Tomatoes, dude, or not Killer Tomatoes.
Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Yeah.
We're watching Killer Tomatoes tomorrow with our patrons.
Well, that'll be
Sorry.
that'll be on Sci-Fi
No,
with Critters.
Return of the Killer Clowns from Outer Space. That's a long title. They need to get someone on that.
That's
Killer
that's going to
Clowns
be on
sequel.
Sci-Fi though. Yeah, that's on Sci-Fi with the Critters show.
Oh yeah.
But it's still gonna have the original filmmakers and stuff. So.
That's good news. Yeah, very good news for sure.
And there's a Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark movie coming out.
New Mutants.
I think that's gonna be cool.
Wolf
Yeah.
Freaks
Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Yeah.
Also,
Those illustrations gave me nightmares, like legitimately, and they were in the kids section at the library, for God's sake.
I know it's the artwork because they re-released them with different art, and I was like, this sucks. The stories weren't that great. It's the freaking artwork, dude.
Stranger Things Godzilla crossover. I'm looking for that.
Marsha Parker thought you were talking about Punk'd when you were talking about CM Punk.
Oh, Ashton Kutcher. No, CM Punk. He's kind of an MMA fighter. He didn't do much fighting in his matches, but he was in it.
I don't have a problem with CM Punk. You're just a
you
hater.
don't know anything about CM
Why are you
Punk.
drinking all your haterade, bro?
You know nothing about the guy.
Whatever, I don't need to, okay?
So
I
you
played
g-
him in a video game, it was fun.
so
Same
you guys
with
kind of
wrestling.
answered the next question already. It was regarding remakes and reboots, so you're kind of excited about some of those. Now, if you guys, this next question kind of veers a little bit. If you guys could helm an entry into any franchise, what would you want to take control of, and do you have any ideas of what you would do to resuscitate it or make it cool?
Oh, franchise. I don't know about that. I really, really do want to write, and well, I already kind of wrote, but I want to direct and make a reboot of Anthropophagus.
What is that?
The Grim Reaper.
That's a franchise that has 2 movies. You can pick that.
Oh, technically it does, because there's the German one, part 2. All right, good job. Anthropophagus. It's an old Italian-type horror movie where they're on a guy washes up on an island and he eats the entire island. Because him and his family were on a raft, him and his wife and kid, and they were starving to death out in the sea, and he just kind of lost his shit and ate his family. And he washes up on this island. It's this little Italian island out on there. It's just this little island. It's secluded there, but there's like, a whole village. When he washes up, and then these other people come out there, they're going to party. They're like, yeah, we know a friend that lives on this island. We're going to go party with them. They get there, there's nobody on the island. And it's because the dude is eating everybody on there. And then he starts trying to eat them, and he even eats himself. He's just crazy. And I want to reboot it, but I want Jake Busey to play the killer. And in the movie, the killer is being kind of helped by his crazy sister, but I would rather it be he's being helped by his crazy father and have Gary Busey be that.
Nice.
But yeah, I want Anthropophagus. It's the one reboot I really want to make.
Interesting. Okay. Gory.
Reboot.
Or franchise.
Or
You could just make
franchise.
sequels or whatever. You're just taking control. You're going to take it over.
I guess if I did, just because I'm really kind of annoyed with all the rebooting happening right now with Buffy, I kind of would like to do that. Because they're doing all this stuff with Buffy, and the one thing that I want to see with Buffy, nobody's even talked about. Like, there's a new Buffy TV show coming out with a whole new Buffy. She's named after Buffy, but it's not really the Buffy that I know.
It's different.
And there's a reboot in the comics too. And Buffy is back in high school, but they're modernizing it. And both those things I feel like I've kind of seen already. I've seen that story of the girl in high school and stuff. There is a book called Carpe Demon. And it's so much like if Buffy grew up, and I want that story on the big screen. In Carpe Demon, this girl was a demon hunter as a young girl, as a teenager, and she was married, and her husband was killed by demons. So she had a young child. So she's like, no more, I'm not doing that anymore. She grows up. She raises her daughter. She marries a politician. She is a housewife. And then demons come back. And she's got a baby and all this stuff. And so she's like, I would love to see that with Buffy. Like, Buffy, 20 years in the future where she's married, she has kids, maybe she's hung up slaying, and then she kind of has to get back into it. Like, I want a different story in that universe with, maybe an older Buffy instead of just telling the story I've already seen. I think that's the issue with a lot of remakes is they're like, well, the first one was successful, so let's do that exact same thing again.
Well, at least they're not doing that with Megan Fox like they were trying to like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
That could have been worse.
And I might still enjoy that too, but I just feel like when you're having a remake or a reboot, do something creative, do something crazy. Another thing I would really like to see, this is from my boy Lulz, I want an R-rated Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
Almost R-rated comic of Scooby-Doo. It's not that great though, but yeah, I would like a more adult Scooby-Doo.
Like I said to Brandon Wilson, I'm not saying I'm not excited about the other Buffy stuff. I devour all things Buffy. I will probably love both those things. It's just that's a story I would like to see. Something that I don't think we're gonna see, unfortunately. But yeah, I would love to see an R-rated Scooby-Doo too, where it's the Scooby Gang, but there's like blood and gore, kind of like what we saw in Scooby Natural, in Supernatural.
Mm-hmm.
They had a Supernatural crossover, and there was like gore and stuff, and kind of what Meddling Kids did, the book, and kind of what Saturday Morning Massacre did, but good.
Lots of movies have like their homage to Scooby-Doo, where it's a couple of kids investigating a haunted house or something, and some of those are gory, but I want an actual Scooby-Doo one.
Marsha Parker, I would say cartoon or live action, but I'm not really into the Scooby Apocalypse comics right now.
Yeah, like I said, that's kind of adult, but it's not very good.
But yeah, I would love to see a Scooby-Doo movie for adults, animated or not. I think that would be really fun.
That's a good one. Fuego, what's next for you, sir?
Yeah, I definitely have to say that I'm down with the whole Buffy, like, the Logan approach, the, get like 20-something years in the future or whatever, history of violence or Unforgiven, whatever you want to, like, mix that with Buffy. Bomb status, yo.
That's the thing.
There's the Future Slayer. I'd even like her.
One thing I am excited though, in January there's a book called Slayer coming out, and I think that's cool. It's set in that universe where it's a story of another Slayer, and I think that's really cool. I'm really excited for that book. But as far as Buffy, a lot of people keep trying to redo Buffy. Like, well, what if we put her back in high school? What if we have Buffy, but it's not Buffy? I want to see an older Buffy.
There's also just so much in that universe that you could do. That's why redo the same part over and over again.
Yeah, I would also like to see more exploration of that universe, and I think that book Slayer is going to try and do that.
It's
so
like
I think that looks good.
So then, as far as like trends in the horror industry that you want to see more of, then what is something you guys would like?
Trends. Let's see. I want to see like a good. They tried to do it and it was shit, but I wanted like an open universe of the Universal monsters, but not the way they're doing it. I want them to actually do it well and let them be horror movies, not Tom Cruise running around and then being a mummy somehow.
And that's what's really disappointing because the Universal movies are one area of horror I really want to see remade, because they were remade with the Hammer horror films and those were great, and they introduced them to a whole new generation with more boobs and more blood. Mm-hmm. And so I would like to, we kind of had a resurgence in the 90s with the adaptations of Dracula and Frankenstein we had, so I'm disappointed that Mummy didn't live up to that, but I would love to see those remade.
Yeah, I'd love to see the trend of having like an open universe, kind of like what Marvel is doing well with and DC's not doing so well with, but I want something like that. The Godzilla one might work out. I am looking forward to the new Godzilla movie. They're going to eventually have him cross over with King Kong, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, I would love an actual horror Universal where they did it. But they let it be horror. They let it still be true to that. It's not going to be like, just a big CGI action movie, but actually let it be a horror universe.
That's fair.
That's what I'd like.
Now, getting back to your show just a little bit, do you guys have like particular like goals or benchmarks for what you want your channel to become, or is it just subscriber growth, or do you think like that even, or is it just you just take the new ideas as they come kind of thing?
We always kind of wish we had more time. Like, I work a lot, so there's all kinds of cool like little ideas I always wanted to do. You have one that you're working on, and hopefully you'll have it out, new ideas.
That's what's frustrating is it's really easy to come up with ideas. It takes time to implement said ideas, especially like it's even easy to film stuff, but editing is where you get slowed down a lot. And so we have more ideas than we have time to create and implement these ideas.
Yeah, I'll like mark it down on the calendar. Like, all right, I have so many weeks until I need this to be up, and then when I'm working on other stuff too, and then I get to it, like, well, scratch that one off, scratch this one off.
Yeah.
So that we're almost to 10K, so that's as far as sub growth, that's what I guess we're looking at next.
And when we started our channel, we're like, wouldn't it be cool if we got interviewed on the horror show? So I feel like we can retire.
I doubt it, but that's a kind thing to say. But let's see. I don't know. Maybe
Cecil Laird was our friend.
Maybe if
Fuego.
Maybe if this interview gets some views, maybe we can help push you a little closer to 1,000. You guys are almost there, though, or 10,000. 10,000. No, you guys. I saw you're at like 98.75 or something. You're super close right now. So, yeah, I think you guys will be there.
As far as you mentioned, like new shows coming up, do you want to tell them some of the new stuff we have?
Yeah, I have like a horror hypothesis show, and the first episode will hopefully be explaining.
Jay keeps telling me that's a terrible title, but I like it because it's accurate, brah.
Yeah, it's because of game theory or movie theory. We're gonna do horror hypothesis.
Because they're not technically theories when you watch those shows.
Yeah, those are technically hypotheses.
And it's an
but
H word.
It is. It goes with horror.
We think
Iteration.
It probably is.
I have a new show coming up, and the plan is to implement it this month. I just keep trying to approach, like, how do I want to do it? But the show I want to start, at least, I want to get one episode this month, is the true story behind. And the idea of the series will be, like, I'll take a movie like The Strangers. And because I get a lot of, the idea came from, I get a lot of comments, like, on my Backcountry review or on my 12 Feet Deep review. People will say I'm insensitive because I didn't like a movie that was based on a true story. It's like, well, you know, you're a terrible person because that really happened to somebody. And I'm fascinated by that. When they say it's based on a true story, I would look that up. You know what? 9 out of 10 times is bullshit.
Yeah,
It's bullshit. So I want to start a show where I take these movies that are based on a true story. I will tell you everything. Any incident like that that's happened in the past. What it's allegedly based on, where the idea came from, and then ultimately, is it actually based on a true story or not? So, I don't know. What do you guys think? Cool? Cool?
Yeah, I like
Don't
that.
status.
Based on a true story, it's like, well,
And with like all
Dino says more skits, by the way.
Oh, we have a new characters we're unleashing, too. We have Chupacabra.
yeah,
He's our Puerto Rican friend, who is a Chupacabra and a cop.
and kind of a werewolf. I don't know.
So
And all
it's
badass.
Chupacabra then? Is it
Chupacabra.
Chupacabra? Nice.
He's like a wolf cop.
That's
He's
cool.
a Chupacabra.
That's
nice.
We also have Danny's mother will be appearing this year.
on Mother's Day.
So Danny's already balls crazy because he talks to his fucking toys, who are assholes, monster face. Danny's mother,
Monster Face probably won't
who
be
is
my
Danny in drag.
Monster Face probably won't be my only little sidekick for the year of the
Hate Monster
puppets.
Face.
There'll
That guy's a
probably be
dick.
other puppets involved, maybe Blade and Ashy Slashy as well.
Nice.
Yeah,
So-
I have an idea how I want to use Ashy Slashy myself. I'm trying to figure it out.
So more characters, more sketches, definitely. Danny is I feel like we each have different strengths when it comes to creating, but Danny is the sketch master. Sometimes I come up with one, like our mom and dad one. I'm like, this is what I want to do, and I will do it. But a lot of times I'll be like, I'm doing this. I need a sketch, and Danny will just boom like that. He's just really creative like that.
Sometimes it's a curse though, and I get out of control. Like the Krampus, where we was like, we all like got around Krampus, and that
We were
went.
still doing it into January.
Yeah, 'cause it went on way too long.
I think we
intervention on Krampus.
like when I think I understand what you're saying. Like when you come up with an idea that's like too big to get done the way you want to do it.
yeah.
Yeah.
We have one of those. Yeah,
Dream
we
big.
actually have one we're going to implement. It might be our next official comedy sketch. We haven't done one in like a year and a half in an official capacity. But we've been messing with the idea of doing like a Horrorwood Squares. So we'll each
That's fun.
we'll each play
I
our
wanna
own
do a
characters
game show,
and
like a trivia game show. And I
Yeah.
got some soft cards. I also want to do more collabs. We're the kind of channel where every time anyone's ever asked us to collab, we've done it. But aside from like our big events, I don't often think to ask people, or I'm not great at like coming up with collabs. But we've got a good one with Dr. Gangrene coming up because we really like him, and we're doing some haunted house movies, one on his show, one on our show. I'd like to do more like collabs more with other channels because I think that's really fun, and I think it kind of makes you step up your game. And I feel like whenever you collab with another channel, you learn something new, and you also kind of, I don't know, like make new friends, brah.
It's like
I just said brah twice in one stream. Such a douche.
one
Get
time
it.
for Full Moon where I did a kids movie Goobers, and it was a dare from Screaming Soup because they're just like, it's a funny word, do that, it's kids movie. And I'm like, all right, well, I dare you to do it with me, and that's how it ended up being a collab.
nice.
We did Goobers. Boy,
That's a good one.
Yeah, those were fun. I feel like whenever you work with new people, you kind of pick up on new stuff and learn new things, and
yeah, just fun.
it's just fun. Everyone has their own style, so it's just fun.
I
Indeed.
plan to hopefully have. I get asked this all the time, and I don't want it to be a series by any means, but I don't mind doing one episode for Horror Addicts Live, where it's like kind of a stag guys' night out, where we do like
We get asked that
Frankenhooker
a
and
lot.
stuff.
It's like you guys are missing the point of Ghouls Night Out.
Yeah,
You gotta call it Horror Addicts the Dawn Show.
Yeah, it's like, so I don't know. I don't want to do a whole series of it like how she has Ghouls Night Out, but I wouldn't mind doing one episode of it. When I do a live stream, I like to have a theme. Like at one time I had Lee from Drum Dums and Horror Guru, but we did like a camping. The summer camp was our theme, and we just did all the summer camp horror movies that we could really talk about. So that's what I do. I want to do like a bachelor party horror theme. So
Nice.
Yeah,
Scary
they're gonna
Fix
watch
Sausage Soiree,
bachelor
or-
party movies like Hostel 3 and
Hostel.
Siren and stuff, and
yeah,
it's gonna be the dudes.
Call Girl Cthulhu and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
I think that'd be a fun night.
Yeah.
Well, so this is where I have to jump in and ask. So that sort of palaver with other channels through the interwebs is badass, but what's your thoughts on conventions? Actually, like getting together with other scarific people. Are there any go-tos that you guys have up in the Northwest there, or like how far have you ventured for like scary conventions and stuff?
Just Seattle so far.
Yeah, we live in Washington State. We do not live in Seattle, as Count Jacula so eloquently put it. We live in buttfuck Egypt.
Sometimes when other people like from Australia or whatever, like, where do you live? And it's like near Seattle, I'd say that. But
Yeah, it's easy
still
just
a
to say
couple
near
hours
Seattle, because
away,
if you
but-
say Wenatchee, people are like, what the fuck did you just say?
Wenatchee.
I would have said that.
Yeah, so,
So where we are, we're really one of the things that's been kind of a staple of our relationship. The first year we started dating, he'd only gone a couple years before we started dating, is Crypticon Seattle. We go every year, and we love it. I love Crypticon Seattle because it's not like, I mean, we have Comic-Con, but I won't go to Comic-Con just because big crowds like that are really intimidating for me. And Crypticon Seattle, it's a smaller convention. It's small enough that you could be in the hallway and then a celebrity will walk up to you and just start talking to you. It's small enough that if you go in line to wait for somebody, you're not going to wait more than 10 minutes, and you can actually have a conversation with that person without holding people up.
Nice.
You know, it's nice, but it's not tiny small. But also,
That's Elvira.
there are a couple where they're longer, but usually there's nobody in line.
Yeah.
Usually there's not. Like Doug Bradley. Doug Bradley's a big deal. Nobody in his line. Just walked up, talked to Doug Bradley. Kane Hodder. Occasionally somebody like an Elvira or somebody will have a line.
Yeah.
But most of the time not. It's a smaller convention. And we would go every year, and because we had a friend who was a panelist, and we would go to the panels, and we talk a lot. And they're like, why don't you guys just be panelists? And we're like, oh, us? Sure.
Well, they said that, yeah, you might as well. And then our friend, he like took me to talk to the guy who was running, and he's like, he should be a panelist next year. And he's like, oh, well, what does he do? And I didn't really do officially anything, but he's like, knows everything about horror. And he's like, well, I don't know. We'll see. So what I did is I started Horror Addicts, and even though we only had about we had like 50 subs at the time.
Our first horror convention that we were
like about 58
guests at,
subs.
we had like 300.
No, we only had about.
Really?
Yeah, we only had
We were
about.
that tiny. We suck.
It was only a couple. We started just a couple of months before we went. But yeah, I'm like, hey, so here's this thing, and then I like sent links because we did write for like you wrote for Watch Play Read. Even I had a couple articles on Watch Play Read. I'm like, we wrote for them. Here's our horror channel. Check out our cool Aliens review and stuff, and they liked it. And even though we were tiny,
And
like, yeah,
actually,
it
was funny because the second year we did it, we posted a video where like, if you actually know who we are and say I'm a horror addict,
you'll get a free shirt.
You'd get a shirt. But like, I think one person did, and then that was the same year the Queen is like, I'm a fan of your show. We're like, who? What? You've seen our show?
We met Pete Todd that way. Yep.
But yeah, so that was really cool. But we've been doing Crypticon as panelists for about 8 years now. We're going back this year, and it's really cool. It's like horror summer camp because we've been seeing these people for the past 8 years, and we look forward to seeing them all year. It's like a weekend thing. You get to just stay up all night, hang out with other horror geeks. It's so much fun, and every year we end up doing more things. There's so much to do. We like last year we saw a movie at it for the first time, and that was a totally different experience for us. And so, you know, panels, meeting celebrities. It's different every year, and it's always fun.
We got to watch the premiere of Manos, Hands of Fate
Yeah.
Part 2, Return of Manos. Is the sequel.
Yeah, we're going back this year, and we've all. It's starting to expand more because usually, because it is a smaller convention, usually we're the only YouTubers there. There's a lot of podcasters. Last year there was another one. We actually got to do a workshop on YouTube, And we got to do it with Mr. Creepypasta, so that was really fun. So, and more YouTubers are starting to go. We saw Queenie Todd there last year and Almost Sideways. So, yeah, every year it's different, but every year we also get to see a lot of familiar faces. So I love Crypticon Seattle so much. And the only disappointing thing about Crypticon Seattle is it's the exact same days as Texas Frightmare, which is the one I would actually travel to go see because it's just such a big event. And so many of our friends on YouTube go to that. And it would be like, Jay from Bloodbath and Beyond was saying, wouldn't it be cool if we got like a room where all of us who are friends on YouTube could hang out? And I think that'd be really cool to like hang out with you guys in person and hang out with our other friends in person.
Totally.
I traveled to go do that, but it is always the same freaking days as
It's only
Crypticon.
the last 2 years it has been. One of these days, hopefully it won't be again. But
I hope Crypticon Seattle changes their dates, because I would, as far as other ones I want to check out, I'd love to check out Texas Frightmare. And we're not that far from California. Maybe Monsterpalooza one of these days.
Yeah. The awesome thing about it being on Texas Frightmare Weekend is like when I see what they got there, it makes me like, oh, well, that means we're not getting it.
This one's got good people. Did you see? We got Dee Wallace, we got CJ Graham, we got Barbara Steele. What?
We always do get good people, but it's just kind of sad when you see them pop up on that one because it's like, oh, well, it means they're not coming back.
Yeah, they're not working as much.
Now, one of the last questions we have here is, what do you guys think of the current state of horror, both in Hollywood, on streaming services, and on YouTube?
Oh, I lost him.
Oh no!
Uh-oh.
We still see you. We still see you, and uh-oh. I think we can hear them too. Let's see.
There we go. All right. Hold on.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I think you guys are still.
Second there.
Can you hear us?
I hate that term.
Yeah, you guys
Okay.
are still good.
It bothers me.
All right.
It was just for a second. We're back.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And we're back.
Alrighty. So did you hear the question, or should I reiterate?
At the beginning of it.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think of the current state of horror in Hollywood, on streaming services, and on YouTube?
In Hollywood, it's actually really great right now. It's actually about as big as it's probably been in a long time.
But are you happy with what's coming out of it?
Well, we got Get Out, and yeah, actually, for the most part, I'm pretty happy. There's some shit. Slender Man sucked, but
I say that because Fuego and I are going to be recording our 10 most disappointing today, and a lot of those were from Hollywood last year too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, Hollywood's doing well, though. They're making their money. Some good ones are coming out. Some even got, last year, Oscar nominations and wins. So it's actually pretty good for horror right now, I'd say, in Hollywood. You're going to get some shit that we're not going to like because we actually like horror movies. We're not just, I'll see a horror movie once a year if it's, big enough in the theaters or something.
Yeah,
and
if it's in
people are
October.
yeah, I'm feeling a little horror right now, but we're like that all year. So yeah, that doesn't appease to us that much. That's the mainstream casual crowd. They're just,
We are the one frustrating trend I see right now is we're kind of getting back into that trend we had in the early 90s. There was a period of time in the early 90s where it was almost shameful to be a horror movie. And so when a horror movie came out like Silence of the Lambs, it's not a horror movie, it's a psychological thriller. It's dude fucking eats a guy's face off. You're a horror movie. You fucking own that. Right? Don't you be ashamed. And I just got Hereditary on Blu-ray and I was watching the special features and all the actors and stuff. It's really more of a psychological thriller. You freaking saw your head off, okay? You're a horror movie. Own that shit. It's okay to be a horror movie.
yeah.
I don't like that.
Horror has been a bad word for a long time in movies, pretty much ever since kind of the 80s slasher thing exploded.
Horror is my favorite genre, so I really get disappointed when a movie tries to say that it's not a horror movie or somehow it's better than that.
Back in the Universal monster
kind of
movies,
insulting.
It was okay to call it a horror movie, and people were like, well, I like Dracula and Frankenstein, so that was fine. But then the 80s slashers got way too big, and it's like, well, horror. Let's not call it that. We'll call it a thriller.
The nice thing with the mainstream stuff is it does get a little bit more cred. We've had a few big hits the last 4 or 5 years. It Follows, Get Out, Hereditary, where I guess the mainstream is appreciating it more. But I don't really personally. I don't need that validation as a horror fan. I don't need the rest of the world to think it's cool.
Sorry, guys. We had Susie, I think, just arrived, so we got to go let her in real quick.
All right.
For streaming services, I think horror's doing pretty well. I mean, Bird Box is a huge thing on Netflix right now. People hate it and some people love it, but it's a thing that everybody's talking about. So
True.
I guess what I was saying, like with the mainstream thing, is I guess it's cool that more people are coming into it, and I hope we get more diehards.
yeah, hopefully.
But I
some are
don't
being more.
need somebody who isn't a horror fan to tell me that horror is good or worthwhile. I don't need that.
Yeah.
So that for me, that's not the good part of it being mainstream. But if somebody who's never been into horror catches a movie like Hereditary and they love it and they become a diehard like us, that is cool. But overall, as far as the trends go, I feel like one thing that's really frustrating for me with other horror fans is a lot of horror fans will be like, well, modern horror sucks. It was only good in Universal days. It was only good in the 80s. It was only good in the 70s. A lot of times, and the movies they mention are like the 4 or 5 best movies of that year. Yeah, there was a lot of shitty movies that came out the same year as The Exorcist, okay?
Mm-hmm.
That there were, people remember the movies that stand the test of time, but if you were alive in the 80s, you would know that, 1981, yes, we had Evil Dead. Yes, we had An American Wolf and there was also a lot of shit that year, too.
It reminds me of that episode of South Park where the kids are going to go out on a, like, supernatural or, like, a journey together. Like, hey, we got our 80s soundtrack, right? And then, like, they start playing these songs that are just really bad from the 80s.
You'd steal my armrest.
Pushing me out of the camera.
Oh, no.
Well, go ahead.
But,
I'm sorry.
So that's
Anyways,
the thing. Like,
yeah, but they're talking about Hollywood. Now we're going to move on to the live streams. How do you think
Yeah, the streaming
horror's doing well
services.
there? Like streaming services like Netflix and stuff. How do you think that's doing? I think, like I said, Bird Box is big. The Bandersnatch got popular, as funny as it is. I don't know if like the best movies are coming out right now, but they're big.
Okay.
Any things to weigh in on that?
Do you like the
services that are so
well, like there's the horror that gets released to the theaters, and then there's the ones that go straight to Netflix or straight to Shudder, things like that. Like, so it is kind of a different,
Hulu and stuff.
it's a different feel on some of those movies than you get from the Hollywood movies. So I was just curious, because a lot of people
honestly,
are bigger
to me,
on
it's just like
streaming
another
horror than
studio.
that. Yeah.
Netflix. Maybe back in the day it was different, but they have a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna get a lot of the same stuff. It used to be when there was a Netflix original, it was always good. It's not always the case now, but I'm always excited about it. I have Netflix. I really like Shudder. I'm excited about what Shudder's doing with Joe Bob Briggs.
Oh yeah, I think Shudder's doing great.
Shudder has a lot of stuff on there. I want Shudder to expand its library a bit. But yeah, I mean, Netflix is good. Netflix needs to not greenlight every fucking thing that hits their table because they release a lot of shit.
That's what I'm
They're
saying.
finally
Some people call Netflix the straight to DVD of today.
Exactly.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Since we don't have really DVD stores anymore, I mean, there's a little bit of Redbox, but that's about it. I'd say, yeah, it is. Netflix did kind of fill that hole that they kind of killed them off.
I honestly, the straight to DVD of today for me is Sci-Fi Channel.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that Netflix can vary. Sometimes they put a lot of good stuff into their movie. They'll put a lot of effort. They'll put a lot of money. They'll get a lot of good acting. So they can, but then they also can give us something that's just shit. And I don't know. You gotta be careful on which thumbnail you click, I guess. your
Yeah,
to-watch
and
list.
honestly, as far as a horror fan, I don't think Netflix has the best horror selection.
Yeah.
They have a few good winners, but they also get rid of a lot of horror stuff. I think the best thing Netflix has going right now as far as horror, I like Chilling Adventures of Sabrina and I like Stranger Things.
Yep.
Yeah, those are both great. I think their horror shows are pretty good. Then again, they also have like, I think, was it
Hulu is really trying to step up the horror game. They got a lot of exclusives this year. They got Castle Rock,
Yeah.
and they have Light as a Feather. I think but I still feel like, Netflix is the big giant amongst them.
Yeah, they're gonna have some competition with Disney, but probably not so much in the horror department. So they're
Yeah.
stealing away all their Marvel franchises, though.
I think when it comes to horror, we got Screambox and we got Shudder. I think Shudder is definitely the way to go.
Yeah, Shudder's awesome. So what do you think the state of horror is on YouTube?
The fuck?
This is a 3-part question. It
Yep.
goes from Hollywood to live
Why are there all these parts?
streaming services to YouTube.
Because it's one of the last two questions. So
So now we're on to
I
YouTube.
feel like one of those old ladies like, what are they saying?
I feel like horror on YouTube, our community is great. You guys are doing awesome. Everybody's doing awesome. Dr. Wolfie is doing awesome. Some of the smaller little channels are starting to get really big that I really love. I think so in that sense it's great. I think YouTube itself is kind of a dick to us.
Mhm.
It's not.
Very
YouTube's a dick to everybody.
It is a dick to everybody. I don't like PewDiePie, but he doesn't even get invited to their big
If you
YouTube.
say that, like a billion people unsubscribe from you, like right away.
I know, probably.
And we don't even have.
I
a billion
don't watch
subscribers.
him,
Way
and
to
I
go.
don't care for him, but I don't like. I think it's still kind of funny and like dickish on YouTube's part that they don't invite their biggest, most subscribed, viewed guy to their big end of the year
The
thing.
rewind?
They had Will Smith on it, yeah, the rewind thing, because
They didn't even have Shane Dawson, and I think he had probably
Exactly,
the most
like-
successful year of last year.
so it's very. YouTube as a whole is a huge clique that sadly will probably never be invited to the cool kids table, but that's alright because the horror table is way fucking cooler. So we got each other.
I feel like especially this last year, HorrorTube has become a legitimate YouTube subgenre. I know when we first started, there was like us. There's that we know of. We knew of like Bloodbath and Beyond. There was like maybe you can count them on two hands. And now I know so many awesome horror channels. Like I could go on for like a while listing them all. So I feel like HorrorTube has become a legitimate like thing on YouTube. Like we have a pretty big community now, and it's always growing, and we're always getting more. So that's really exciting.
I'm going to be very
that was the
tempted to
last
do. Kind of. Well, I mean, there's a little more specificity, but I'm actually very tempted. I almost did it this year, but I'm going to try and pay more attention to a higher cross section of horror tubers, and I think it would be fun for us to try and put together a horror tube rewind at the end of 2019.
That would be
that'd
cool.
be
To
cool.
just kind of highlight everyone in our community, and that way everyone gets recognized, big and small, and it can be as long or as short as we want and all that stuff. So I think that might be
And one
fun.
thing I would like to say about YouTube, because YouTube, it's not like Hollywood. Hollywood, a lot of times, oh, that was the biggest movie of the year, and usually usually the movie that nobody watched is usually a movie that's not worth watching. That's not the case with YouTube. Yeah, there are some really big channels, and yes, they are great. Yes, I get told all the time in our comments, you guys aren't as good as Dead Meat. Probably not. Dead Meat's a really good show.
So we were.
We're not saying that we are, but I also know shows that are even, that don't have a lot of subscribers that are really good,
Oh, yeah.
that are just as good, that should have 1 million subscribers. Screaming Soup is so good. I do not know why they don't have 1 million subscribers, but regularly I check, just type in horror review and check it by like the last month, not the most popular ones that come up, because there are some really, really talented people out there. They don't have a lot of subscribers, but that does not mean that their content is not good.
No.
Homicidal Homemaker doesn't have a lot of subscribers, and the reason why is because YouTube rewards. Like Homicidal Homemaker she posts like one video a month, so YouTube isn't going to recommend her a lot, which really stinks.
I think that's the problem with Screaming Soup too, is they put so much time into it that
Thing.
it's like quality over quantity
Also,
for them.
if you're demonetized, like all your videos are demonetized, they're not going to recommend you. And Screaming Soup doesn't monetize, so they don't get recommended. And so, based on YouTube's ridiculous algorithm, there's some great content out there that a lot of people are probably missing out on, which is really unfortunate.
Yeah.
Agreed.
There's a lot of
Do we? Well,
We honestly covered it kind of. Last question, basically, we were going to ask you guys, since you have done such an impeccable job of bringing the horror community together with something like the Creepy Crawl, if you had some of those lesser known channels that you think need more recognition, more attention.
here you go. She's
like
got a
a
list. It
crap.
looks like she's pulling up a list.
Brian Barnes, I want to say him for right there. He does Mondo Peace Theaters. He also just is great. He puts on a Grim Reaper costume and just talks to himself with a green screen and has such funny gags. And I love just, like, if anybody was going to roast me, I'd want him to probably host the roast, because he's just got some really good zingers for these really old, like, horror, nudie, cutie type 70s grindhouse things, and he just tears them apart, but in such a hilarious fashion.
Nice.
So I just posted this in your chat just to make it easy.
All right.
Okay.
We have a pretty big number of channels listed on our featured channels, including The Horror Show. It's such a good channel.
Thank you
It's
so
really
much. Thank you.
Gracias.
So all I got. But yeah, a lot of great channels, and the full one, like if you click on it, there's quite a few. I would recommend every single one that we have on our featured channels. Really great ones. I feel like there's a lot that you guys probably know about, like Drum Dums and Spooky Astronauts, but some lesser known ones. Dr. Gangrene. He was a television horror host in the 90s. Really cool guy. He has his own YouTube channel, and it is old school horror hosting on YouTube.
Oh yeah.
So fucking cool. You guys probably know about like the Bloodbath and Beyond, Dr. Wolfield. I fucking love them. There's the Late Late Horror Show. Channel nobody ever watches, but it's so good. The Art of Horror. This guy, he draws horror stuff, right? A lot of Stephen King stuff, Fuego. He did the whole cast horror. He
I'm not
draws
familiar with him.
stuff. Amazing artist, and he will review the movie while he's drawing.
Yeah, you see like the drawing advance, like the way he has it all edited together, and it comes together at the end with it being finished as he's wrapping up the review.
So I'm just gonna list a whole bunch of them here, but
Carnage Candy is really cool. Cool chick. Nightmare Maven's also really cool.
Willis Greedia, 52 Weeks of Horror, The Death Twitch, Horror Gal. Come on, help me out here.
I want to bring up that someone finally broke their silence with Andy from Stitch Together Pics on Facebook. He said, please stop asking for him to come back and harassing his friends and family. He's having fun right now. He might come back, he might not. But we get asked all the time, well, you're on his featured channels.
Yeah, we're on his featured channels. That means we're his best friends, right?
So what's he doing? Will you tell him this? Will you make sure that he comes back? And we're like, the account that he used to talk to us a little bit on, he hasn't been on that account for like a year. He finally broke the silence. He said, stop harassing my family and stuff.
Wow.
Jeez.
It's out there and you're one of those people that really want Andy back. We all liked him. He's a great guy, but
you also need to respect when people retire, because YouTube isn't like a job. It's not like the man got fired from YouTube. If somebody decides to retire or take time off, if you are truly a fan of that channel, you need to respect that. Okay, it is a hard hobby to have, a hard pastime or job, depending on however it affects your life. And sometimes, yeah, it's really fun. But sometimes even things that are really fun, you need to take a break from. And I think with things like Stitch Together Pics, if you guys really love him, give the man a break.
Yeah, don't harass him back onto the
He's
channel.
also really shy, so harassing him is probably not the best way to get him to come back.
All right, well, that's definitely a good list, you guys. Keep an eye out for the Creepy Channel Crawl later this year if you want to learn about a bunch more, because we're gonna actually be featuring a new channel thanks to Gory's recommendation. So,
Chauncey.
What did we just pull out? Of course.
I see Lisa loves in the chat.
Of course, at the very end here, I pull out our ability to hear. So, and it's still. Oh,
Yep.
all right, can you guys hear us though?
Yep.
Okay, sorry about that. Well, we're just wrapping up, so thank you again for joining us, you guys. We greatly appreciate you taking the time to do the interview. It's been a long time coming. I think I asked you guys to do this the first time probably more than a year ago at this point, but I wanted to make sure we finally did the spotlight, because you guys are doing a lot of really cool things, and I think a lot of our viewers would benefit greatly from going over to your channel. You guys are going to be on the
Creepy Channel Crawl.
Yeah, absolutely, and we're super excited about it.
Stoked.
Yeah, let us know.
You guys want to be on the Oscars?
I was gonna say, yeah. Let us know.
You guys want to be on the Oscars?
You did a great job last time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sweet. You guys are gonna be on the Oscars.
We'll figure out what category and we'll let you know.
Sounds good. Well, thank you guys very much for taking the time. Thank you guys, all of you viewers, for watching. Make sure you click the Horror Addicts channel link down in the description box and go and I know they have a Patreon as well, so you can support them that way if you enjoy their content. Thank you guys very much for watching. Until next time, I've been Cecil Laird.
Gracias, I've been Jaime Fuego.
And we've been joined by
Danny Nightmare.
Gory Movie.
From the Horror Addicts, exactly. And until next time, remember, stay scared. And